Mason Pettits, John Cena, makes sense of that he wanted to turn into a legal counselor, yet exited graduate school following 1 year to enroll in the U.S. Armed Force since he didn't need a cliché life. After he performed well in preparing and was chosen for extraordinary powers, he went gaga for his significant other Jenny, Alice Eve, and had a little girl, Casey, Molly McCann, on a mission in Caldonia, South America, to kill despot Juan Venegas, Juan Pablo Raba. Mason's group is killed, and he is gravely harmed, constraining him to get back and restart his regulation profession. Years after the fact, Mason and Jenny have fallen prey to a tough situation in their rural lives. Mason is visited by his previous chief, Sebastian Earl, Christian Slater, who presently runs a confidential security firm, CDI, Agreement Protection Drives. Mason is reluctant in light of the fact that he faults Venegas for the passing of his confidants. In any case, Sebastian persuades him to acknowledge by offering a $20,000 installment. Sebastian extends to Mason an employment opportunity to safeguard a writer venturing out to Caldonia to meet with Venegas. Mason explores on Claire Wellington, Alison Brie, an honor-winning columnist who was shamed after a reality actually taking a look at outrage. Jenny and Artisan battle, and Mason consents to move out of the house. Jenny is furious to learn Mason is going on the mission and putting his life in danger, yet he actually chooses to leave. Artisan meets Claire, and they fly to Caldonia. Claire makes sense of that Venegas has never consented to a meeting as of recently, so this is a chance for her to reconstruct her vocation. Venegas gets Claire up at the air terminal. Claire and Venegas bond over their common colleague, Ellie, Claire's school flatmate, who presented them. Venegas discusses his nation. However, it is clear the residents of the State House don't respect him, all headed straight toward Venegas's bequest. The train is gone after by aggressors, killing Venegas's security. Artisan assumes command, killing the assailants. Venegas is appreciative for Artisan's assistance and lets Claire know that the assault was an endeavored upset. Be that as it may, Mason's needs to leave the country. Claire is inflexible. They stay to cover the story. Colonel John Cohorst, Martin Chokas, gets a call letting him know that every one of the men are dead. Mason, Claire, and Venegas clear their path through the wilderness. Mason calls Sebastian for reinforcement and is coordinated to a clearing for a salvage pickup. Venegas calls his nephew, Jorge Vasquez, Sebastian Eslava, and discovers that Jorge was behind the death assault so he could hold on to the administration. Mason demands he and Claire leave. However, Claire is upset to offer up this profession-making chance. While anticipating extraction, Mason and Claire are gone after by soldiers of fortune and pursued through the wilderness. Mason kills a large portion of the men, and Venegas makes an appearance to save them from a last aggressor. Jorge and Cohorst meet to examine what is happening. Cohorst makes sense of that his clients are frustrated Venegas has not yet been killed, and takes steps to kill Jorge in the event that the occupation isn't done. Mason lets Claire know this will be his last mission because of his age, and offers that he is isolated from his significant other and frustrated with his life as a legal counselor. Venegas takes Mason and Claire to the little town where he grew up and where local people appreciate him. Claire directs and films her meeting with Venegas, in which he concedes his administration has been supported for quite a while by outside powers who needed to take advantage of the country's regular metal assets, yet who have not been blissful by Venegas' recharged craving for freedom and to better the existences of Caldonians over unfamiliar interest. Claire goes on to Mason in their room, yet he dismisses her advances. Mason calls Sebastian to attempt to figure out the circumstance and learns his genuine mission was to kill Venegas. Yet, Jorge chooses to change the plans. Sebastian makes sense of that South Africans, drove by Cohorst, need to assume command over the Caldonian assets. Cohorst and his men show up at the town, constraining Mason, Claire, and Venegas to get away from riding a horse. During a pursuit, Mason and Venegas move away while Claire is caught. Venegas tells Mason he had some awareness of Jorge's arrangement to kill him, as well as Mason's military mission years sooner. However, that it was cordial fire from contending workers for hire that killed Mason's men. not Venegas' men. Venegas uncovers to Mason that he is companions with the Resistance's chief and pays the renegades as a type of misleading publicity to increment patriotism. Sebastian assists Mason with facilitating an exchange with the South Africans for Claire's return. Before Venegas can be taken, a horde of furious Caldonians appear and go after the hired fighters. Venegas, Mason, and Claire slip into the castle with Claire live gushing from her telephone. Venegas and Jorge accommodate. However, Broad Martinez, Mauricio Cujar, shows up and shoots Venegas. Venegas is safe and kills Martinez. However, Jorge passes on from a wanderer shot. The Caldonian military and South African soldiers of fortune show up. Venegas gives an enthusiastic discourse that persuades the military to battle with him, and a firefight results. As Claire movies, Mason and Cohorst fight. Cohorst uncovers he is the one that killed Mason's men. Claire saves Mason's life by thumping Cohorst oblivious, and Mason battles the leftover soldiers of fortune. Sebastian shows up with a gathering of reinforcement powers that at last drive the South Africans out. News inclusion overall reports on the occasions and Claire's courageous film. In a little while, Venegas ventured down as president and uncovered that Caldonia would have a forthcoming free political decision. There would be a huge interest in the well-being and schooling of the Caldonian public. Mason gets back and reconnects with Jenny and Casey. Mason finds that Venegas has given him $5 million. Mason chooses to invest more energy with his family now that he knows his motivation.